Hello, folks. Welcome to the Parenting Today's Teens webinar. My name is Jeff C., and I'm here once again with Mark Gregston, who is the founder and director of Heartlight Ministries, a residential home in Longview, Texas, and also the host of Parenting Today's Teens Radio, which is heard on over 1,500 radio stations across the nation. So, Mark, welcome once again. Thanks for being here.
Hey, you bet. You know what I always find out, Jeff, this camera makes my forehead look a little bit bigger.
Yeah, well, I just look like a big giant head sitting here, but anyway.
Yeah, you got a bigger head than I do. Matter of fact, you look awful. Matter of fact, I can go on and on, but it's amazing to me that when I'm sitting in front of a camera, or I'm sitting behind the text, or I'm sending out email, I can bully you pretty well. I mean, it's just easier to do it online. It's easier to do it on text, but I could bully the daylights out of you if I wanted to and be pretty critical of you. Because when we do this thing, it's all about appearance, and I can cut you down to make myself look better.
That's right, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about the epidemic of bullying, because on the coming radio show, you have an incredible guest and by the name of Nick Vujicic, and I know that, I mean, he's been on Oprah, he's been on all this stuff, but he's got an incredible story. So tell us a little bit about that in that upcoming interview.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of interesting because he has a ministry called Life Without Limbs. He's the fellow that you can see all over the world. About 85% of his audience is in other countries, and I asked him why, and he says because Americans aren't needy enough, but they need him. Here's a young man. He's 31 years old. He has no arms, no legs. All he's got is a little flipper, he calls it. His chicken wing is what he calls it. And if he was ever a target for bullying, if there was ever a target for bullying, he's it. And so he was ridiculed constantly as a kid. He came out with a book about bullying, which is great for kids to read. His name's Nick Vujicic. It's Life Without Limbs. You can go to his website or go to Amazon to get that. But, I mean, it's an amazing, I don't know, maybe a dissertation about what bullying is. Because we get the idea that bullying is more about me being negative on you, pushing you, antagonizing you. But you know what? What I found out after that interview is that we all bully just a little bit one another in the way we engage with one another. Yeah. So anyway, it's a great book. He's on, and we really spent a lot of time. So if people can't join us for the radio program itself, then what they can do is download it on Parenting Today's Teens, or you can go there, or you can get it into your iTunes, and it's a great program, though, really good program.
Yeah, and I encourage people to sign up for your newsletter, because that will be coming out and be a sign up for you're having the radio show, but also there's actually an extended version that I know you're offering to your newsletter subscribers and people to visit the website, that they can download and listen to, like the expanded version of your interview with Nick, because it's so amazing. I mean, the thing that got me when I saw him is, he has no arms and no legs, and he swims. To me, that'd be the most scary thing that I could think of. But he loves it.
Yeah, I mean, he surfs, he golfs, I mean, he does so many different things, and he's just one of those neat guys. He signed his book for me with his mouth, and he was sitting there writing on it, and I thought, you know what, he's got millions and millions of followers. He just got married 2 years ago to this beautiful lady from Dallas, and they had a baby, and when they showed the picture of it, on Facebook, he had over 8 million likes within about 45 minutes. Now that's how people are attaching to this guy, because here's a guy that's been the underdog for so many years, and he's stepping up. But he has a great message to kids, and that is wonderful. And he speaks to literally millions of people throughout the world. And right now he's targeting bullying, and which is kind of cool. He's really a cool guy.
That's great. I encourage everybody to look at that, listen to that interview, because it's really is neat. So, you were teasing me a little bit about the beginning of the show about bullying and how easy it is to do online, and cyberbullying is always in the news. So, how can parents guard against cyberbullying? What can they do?
You know what? I think at age 12 and 13 that parents need to be pretty involved in the way that they oversee their kids' internet access, their social networking, their Twitter accounts, and just as soon as I say all this, it's all going to be outdated because there's always going to be new things from Snapchat to Kick It, to whatever. It's going to change. So I hate mentioning all these sites because it will be different. But I think that when a kid is 12 and 13 years old, we've got to spend a lot of time engaging with them and overseeing them and helping them see what bullying is and what it's not. And then of course, a 17, 18-year-old, they've got to be able to handle things on their own. I'm not so sure that we need to be spending our time really helping that child at 17 and 18 that's getting bullied, because hopefully by that time we've taught them a little bit about discernment and how to move away from those people that are negative in your life. I mean, if you live long enough, and everybody out there can attest to this, that if you live long enough, somebody's going to be negative about you without question, and so you have to learn how to deal with that. And so, it's teaching kids early on. It's training them to be able to handle themselves later on in life.
Gotcha. So you're saying pretty much it's age appropriate. You kind of change your monitoring from when they're small on the internet. I mean, when they're young teenagers, to when they get older. You want to be training them to have discernment on what to say on their accounts. What's considered good practices on the social media sites.
Yeah, I think it's good to help them learn what they need to listen to and what they don't need to listen to. How to handle rejection and difficulty and hardship and struggle and somebody cutting you up one side and down the other and tearing you apart and making rude comments. I mean, there is a thing about self-confidence. But let me say this too, Jeff. If you watch TV, any TV, you see bullying all the time. If you engage with people, you see bullying all the time. If you watch Fox News, you see bullying all the time. Just as they bullied President Bush, they are bullying President Obama. But whether somebody deserves it or not, if I got everything I deserved, I'd be a pathetic mess. And I'm going, I don't care whether they deserve it or not, to bully somebody. So here we are under the banner of Christendom. And at times what's happening when we're making comments to our kids about, just about politics or coaches or sharing our opinion or telling them or making snide remarks or sarcastic comments. In one sense, what we're doing as parents is giving our kids license to bully somebody else. I mean, I listen to like a Fox News where so much chatter is going on and so much noise. And it's just like the 800 other channels. And I'm not an anti-world or anti-TV kind of guy. But it's amazing to me how negative so many things are, that our kids begin to see that it's a way of engaging with somebody else. We live in a society in the teen culture of self-promotion. And so if I don't have the assets to promote myself, then what I do is I cut other people down, and so that becomes very easy on the internet. I mean, we do that instead of having face-to-face conflict with people. What we do as parents is that we email them or we send them a letter. When Scripture is very pronounced, when Jesus says, if we're going to have conflict with somebody else, Matthew 18, go one-on-one. Why? Because we go face to face. And it's difficult to be cutting and negative and be ridiculing of somebody else when we're really face to face. I remember 25 years ago, a guy sat down with me and said, hey, can we go eat breakfast? I just got a list of things I'd like to talk to you about. Well, I knew what that was. I thought, okay, what he's going to do is just rip me apart. And so when he says, well, here's the positive things about our relationship, I knew what was coming. But you know what? This was the thing. In the privacy of his own home, it was very easy to come up with a list of things because nobody's challenging your thought. And so he came up with a list, and then he wanted to sit down. And when we got face to face, he couldn't go item by item by item. He looked at me and he just said, hey, I need to throw this list away. There's some problems you and I are having in our relationship, and I'd like to talk about those. That's why Scripture tells us to go face to face with somebody and engage with them that way and not make all these lists. Well, our kids are doing this in 140 characters or less, and they're making Facebook comments, and they're tearing people apart because they're in the privacy of their home doing those things or texting those things and don't think that anybody else is going to see it. And it's a delusion. What's really happening is that they're expressing themselves when they need to learn to bridle some of their comments. So here's my point. Parents have got to bridle their comments around their kids so that kids don't begin to feel like they can just unleash on somebody else and express their opinion. You have to remember the scripture that says that a fool delights in airing his opinion. And if that's true, when we do that at times, it's being interpreted as a judgmental statement against somebody else. And when our kids are looking at us and looking at us for an example, and they begin to see us being very judgmental, then what happens is they feel like they can be judgmental, and they're doing this with their peers, and that's what's called bullying. When I'm intentionally moving towards somebody to demean them or make them less of who God created them to be, then that is bullying. And it may be by physical ways, it may be by emotional ways, it may be by words. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Somebody said, well, they won't kill you, but they'll sure change the way that you live. And so if the things I say are changing the way somebody else might perceive themselves, then it's bullying. It's what it is.
You mentioned a lot of times, especially doing with online situations, that kids really have this thing called digital courage. And what do you do? What are some steps that are warning signs that parents need to be looking for to make sure their kids aren't using, digital courage and becoming a bully?
Oh, yeah. I think that's a good idea. And here's the thought, and parents aren't going to like this. Give texting capabilities to your kids earlier so that you have the opportunity to help teach them and train them about texting. We have this thing that, well, you're not going to get a cell phone until you're 10 years old or 12 years old. I'd give it to them earlier so that I can teach them more, so I can have more time to spend of helping them understand that in between and up until your age 13, I'm reading every text that you put out, because there's a tendency that we all have to say things in the dark, or when somebody isn't looking, or when somebody isn't holding us accountable. Then we learn to engage in ways that are very negative. And you've been around people, and everybody here has been around people that are just so negative-minded. And if you ever want to hear a cutting remark, then you can listen to them. Gossip is bullying. I mean, it's manipulating. Being sarcastic is bullying. And so it becomes very easy for them to do. So I'm just saying, hold your kids accountable. Help teach them and train them, because the society that they're being raised in is not what we think it is, because everybody around us is cutting everybody down all the time. And so it's become the new norm. And in a performance and appearance world, it becomes way too easy. Way too easy.
Good. Well, and leading into this, what is the difference? Do boys and girls bully differently? I mean, is there a different? Do they kind of tend to do? Do girls? I mean, probably don't do as much physical stuff as boys do. I'm just kind of interested in the difference between the two.
I think girls, they're probably a little bit more verbal, and then they end up becoming more physical. It's like a cat fight. It's just, it's just intense.
Right.
Guys just, kind of have that bravado where they go, I'm strong like bull, and push each other around, and it's kind of over with. But girls keep it verbal, or they write things. Guys just aren't engaged that much to do that. And so I would tell you that, if women speak, 3 times the number of words a day that men do, I would tell you that teen girls probably bully a little bit more than guys do when it comes to writing and expressing themselves on the internet. I read a post this morning, a Facebook post, and some girl said, I'm having a tough day. This is miserable. Please pray for me. Would you walk with me? Would you help me through this day? Would everybody just pray for me? I went on and on and on and on and on. and it just didn't quit. Okay, another high school kid, he made a comment yesterday. Snake almost bit me. Man, what a bad day. Better one today. I mean, it's just the way that guys engage. It's just different, and they may see the world different. They're not as emotional. They don't get wounded as deeper. But I think what happens is that girls have more of that tendency, not because they talk more, which they do, but that's not it. Their makeup is more about emotion, and they're more expressive. And so if they're more expressive, they'll have more of a tendency to engage in that. And what happens is it's kind of like, hey, let's have a fight down at the smoke hole, and girls will do that because they build up that intensity, and that's why you see so many videos of girls fighting on YouTube, is that these girls are just duking it out because somebody said this, and now it kind of explodes in the hallways of a school, and everybody's sitting around spending more time and being more concerned about videotaping it than they are about stopping it.
Right. And you mentioned that in your articles that so many times the problems of bullying is because people don't speak up. And so how do we teach our kids to stop being the bystander and speak up and stand up around to those people who are being bullied that are in their classes?
Yeah, I don't think it's having our kids learn how to fight or take them to Taekwondo or or say you need to learn karate, or that's about as wise as saying let's just put a gun on everybody's belt and let them walk around. I mean, it's when our conflict resolution comments and language doesn't work, then we resort to force, and I don't think that's a good thing at all. I mean, I have a concealed weapons license. I have more guns than you can shake a stick at. I live in Texas. I've grown up in Texas, but I don't display them or carry them around or bully anybody with them. I mean, that's not because I want to keep everything verbal. And I would tell parents that even in your conflict that you have with your kids, don't get physical, keep it verbal. And so I think what happens is that kids, they sit around and they watch things happen, and they are more concerned. It's always interesting to me that people who watch tragedies happen are more concerned about filming it than they are about giving care to the people that are being hurt. And I think that's the way. It's not the bullier that we need to stop, and it's not the one being bullied that we always need to rescue. It's the bystander that we need to encourage to engage in different ways and just verbally say something. Stop, that's stupid, this is ridiculous, quit doing that. You're shaming that person, you're guilting that person. Quit doing those things. And what that does is pull the fuse out of the firecracker of a young lady or a young man that feels like it's really cool to bully somebody else. Because what they're doing is trying to inflate themselves. And when a bystander says something or engages and says stop, I go, that's where we go, okay, then something's got to be different. And here's the other thing, because people think, well, why would my child get involved and handle a situation and put their own life at risk, if you will, whatever that, it may be, social life, at risk for a person they don't know? Well, it's interesting to me that firemen and policemen and law enforcement do it every day, and we call them heroes when they engage with other people to help people they don't know. I think we're called to do that, to help somebody even though we don't know them, to help them and stop this thing. So I think it's having those kind of discussions around a dinner table that encourages a child to become engaged when they see bullying. Say something. What you'll be doing is stopping the one who's bullying, but you may be saving the life of one who is out there being bullied by somebody else, and that's usually the issue. To the one who's being bullied, they're always asking the question, am I worthy that somebody would stand up for me? I mean, my wife was sexually abused for years, and what she struggled with was nobody stood up for her. Nobody did anything, and that was more harmful than the actual abuse. And I think it's the same way with kids. It's not so much what the bully does, but it's the fact that nobody else steps in and engages and helps in a way. That causes more damage, I believe.
I think I'm hearing a theme from you that a lot of the stuff that can help combat bullying is modeled by the parent, sitting down at the table, having we are supposed to stand up to people who, we see being gossiped about, and the kids catch that, and that's probably one of the best ways probably to help teach kids not to bully, from what I'm hearing you say.
I think so, Jeff. I think that the tendency that most of us have is to enter into it and just say, this is what I would do. Well, you know what, that's more about you as a parent getting your message out and teaching than it is being concerned about the heart of your child. I would ask your child this, do it tonight, sit around the dinner table and just say, hey, what is it about all this bullying stuff? Do you see it that often? Have you ever experienced that? Have you ever sat back, hey, what about all those people that film everything and don't intervene? Would you jump into a fight if two girls got into a fight and help stop it? Yeah, what I would do is go get a bucket of water and throw it on them. I mean, that's what you do with dogs and cats, But I go, there's a part where you just start asking questions to go, have you seen that? Have you seen the results of that? Have you ever been bullied? And then do this, share a time that you were bullied yourself. And go, I remember what it felt like. And just share that. And what you do is get it out on the table, and everybody goes, wow, wow. And let them think about it. Remember, wisdom is transferred through observation, reflection, and experience. That which I observe, that which I reflect on, what I think about, and that which I experience. And so in this bullying realm, like so many other areas, your kids can learn and pick up from you. This is the role that a parent has in training up a child. Train them up in the way they should go. And what you do is you show them those things. And some of that may be sharing your heart. Where did you feel bullied? Where do you feel bullied today? I mean, I felt bullied by people. I mean, I don't think there's a day goes by that somebody isn't trying to bully somebody into doing something, being something, or agreeing with something. When somebody talks to me about somebody else and rips them apart, I'm in part participating in that bullying of that other person, even though there may be a distance from it. But I mean, there's relationship bullying. And so have those discussions, and don't be afraid to talk about them, and know that those discussions will last over a period of time. Instead of thinking you're going to resolve all the bullying issues just by sitting down and having a 20-minute conversation, bullying is going to be around a long time. It'll be around the rest of their life, and it's something they need to be taught about. Very
good. Well, one of the things you mentioned, it's having confidence is one of the best ways to combat bullying. So what do you mean? What do you mean by having confidence? What does that do to the bully?
Well, I think it has more to do with self-esteem and teaching your kids, how to engage with other people, and that may be how to value somebody else in the midst. What valuing somebody can do. I mean, you watch so many movies, and it's amazing to me that when somebody values the underdog, it's amazing how it changes their life. And so I think that's how we combat it. I think we help people learn to value somebody else. And here again, Mom and Dad, if you don't value anybody around you, then your kids won't learn to value. If you don't forgive people, your kids will never learn how to forgive. If you don't handle conflict well, your kids will never learn how to handle conflict, because there's one person that they're watching, and that's you. And so the same way, the way that we value people around us, the way that you value your kids, makes all the difference in the world when our kids are watching us, because they pick it up from us as parents. That's why when you have a distant dad that's not involved in the life of a child, what that child is probably going to wrestle with is a sense of confidence and self-esteem, because why am I not valuable to my dad? And so it becomes so important to just make those comments and still bring those little gifts and let them know always thinking about you, and drop them a note right and left, even texting them and just saying, hey, just want you to know that I love you. That's it. It just lets them know that they're valued in some way.
That's good. You have a different take that I never had really heard before. We're always talking about bullying, and we get angry and mad at the bully, and we hate the stuff that we see on Facebook, But you talk about, this bully has probably had trauma in their life or been bullied themselves, and then you talk about ministering to the bully. How do you do that?
Yeah, you know, of course, I believe that that scripture that says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and you will find rest for your soul." It's probably been a theme of mine. It's a good thing because it's God says, excuse me, God says do that. I mean, and if I'm to be to other people who God is to me, then I want to be that place where somebody finds rest for their soul. And so, burden and heavy ladenness, what does that look like in the life of a teen? It usually means they're a mess and they're confused and they're taking it out on people and so I go, God's called us to those people. And so I think identifying with them in some way and go, you know what, I'm not going to push them away or eliminate them out of the life of my child. What I'm going to do is embrace them and invite them to be a part of life with my child. You know, the tendency is we always push those people out so they just do it more to get more attention. And I go, bring them in. You don't have to go to Africa. You don't have to go to Mexico. You don't have to go to Vietnam. You don't have to go to Russia and China and Uruguay and Paraguay and Colombia and all these other places to find the opportunity to minister to people that God has placed in your life. They're right next door. They live right behind you. They're the next section over. They're all around your kids at school. Half the kids that are at your church need help. They need your help. And so I think it's maybe learning that it's a hurting world, and bullying just happens to be a relational style that somebody's using to find significance and security. And so if they're getting those two things from that, when you take it away, there's got to be something to replace it, or they're going to go back to what's habitual for them. So you got to replace it with something. So what do you replace it with? Us. You replace it with an opportunity to love them different, to value them, to engage with them, and help them learn that to get value in life, it's not by cutting other people down. It's by realizing who you are, in Christ, that boosts them up, because hopefully they'll see that in me as I value them and help them learn that they are of value to other people and to this world.
That's really good, Mark. That's it's good stuff to think about, and I'm gonna go back and probably watch this and take some notes on it. But for anybody who's watching, the best place to find Mark and his ministry and his resources is at parentingtodaysteens.org, and we encourage you to sign up for the newsletter that you can get Mark's teachings, in your inbox once a week, and some great resources there as well. I do want to take a minute to have Mark really quick touch on. There's a thing that you call the Family in Crisis Conference that I know is happening at the end of this month. Mark, talk about that a little bit. And who's that for, and what's going on during that time?
Yeah, you know what? If you have a family member, or of somebody who's struggling with their kids, usually the first tendency is, let's send them to Heartlight. That's where I live here with 60 kids that come from around the country. And I'm going, as the founder of a place like that, I'm telling you, don't do that first. Come to a Family in Crisis Conference. Now, if you go to those people, your family members or friends that you have that are struggling with their kids, go, here, read this book. That's not going to do it either. Somewhere they need to get away. They need to come spend time, sit down one-on-one with some of our counselors, with some of our staff, with me. They get to come to our house and eat dinner one of those nights. But we spend a lot of time together help reorganizing the family and maybe help people realize what's going on with their kids so that they can engage differently. And about 96% of the people who attend these conferences never have to send their child anywhere. And so yes, I want people to come to this Family in Crisis Conference, and they can find out about that at parentingtodaysteens.org. It's a 2-day event. It goes from Thursday noon to Saturday noon. We have one of these events the end of June. We have another one in July that's for single moms. It's just single moms. And here's the thing. If you're a single mom and you're watching this, it's free for you. So you come, and you have to pay for your hotel and you have to pay to get here. But the whole other part of it is free. It's on us. And we just want to offer that to you and help you out in some way. But if you're struggling with your kids, then and you feel like that in 6 months we're going to be in a worse position, then come to this event. It may just change your life, and it may change your kid, and it will do this. It'll change your family, and so be a part of that.
Thanks, Mark. And that is coming up the end of this month on June 26th and through the 28th. And then also he mentioned the single moms one is in July. So make sure to go to parentingtodaysteens.org and find out all about that. And we also encourage you to like us on Facebook. We have a lot of stuff we put out there as well. And also subscribe to this YouTube channel so you'll get updates whenever we post a new video. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. And Mark, thank you once again for being part of this webinar. And we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.